Hey there, Har here, and today we are remaking the video on versatility versus mastery. It was brought to my attention that some of the calculations I made, as well as assumptions, were off, so we're going to try to correct some of those. There will definitely still be some errors for this video, mainly because I don't have the formulas for the conversion from versatility rating into versatility percent, as well as mastery rating into mastery percent. So if anybody has that formula, feel free to drop it in the comments below. It would be greatly appreciated. For the purpose of this video, I am assuming it would be the exact same, getting 30% mastery, 20% verse, as well as 30% verse and 20% mastery. That assumption is probably going to be wrong, but we're just gonna play around with it. What I did was I made a little notepad, kind of jotting down the health I had from playing mastery set gear as well as verse set gear, and I kind of took the net total, and using those net totals I made some calculations based on 3 important defensive damage profiles. But first off, in my 30% mastery gear, I had 1.07 mil base health, 1.23 mil buffed health from the 4-set piece, and the 4-set piece is is the 15% increased HP, max HP you gain. I believe the buff is called Indomitable Guardian, so take a look into that. We're not going to take a look at Power Word Fortitude 5% HP buff, nor are we going to take a look at Incarn. The reason is because you can't always have a priest in your group, and inside of Incarn, regardless of whether you play verse or mastery, you cannot die. If you die inside of Incarn, you are just not pressing enough frenzy regions, or you're eating something that you're not supposed to. Okay. As far as the verse difference, it was about 4.95% difference from playing 30% verse gear and 20% verse. For tank busters, I think a reasonable range of tank busters in a 24 key level was about 700k to 1.3 mil unmitigated. And so based off of those numbers, verse would mitigate 34k, 44k, 54k, and 64k respectively, which definitely means mastery wins out in this regard. At the start of a pull, when you have like 1 stack of Iron Fur, you're taking big hits, big melee hits. Say for example in Freehold, this is pretty reasonable. I would even say 20k might be maybe on the lower end, not necessarily sure, but the damage mitigation from here, 14.9, or from the 4.95% damage reduction multiplied by 5 targets, we'll just pull out the calculator. 200k hits multiplied by the 4.95% damage reduction would mean 9.9, or 9.9k hit mitigated. Multiply that by 5 and you get your 49.5k total damage mitigation from just doing a standard 1 pack, which is 5 targets. In this scenario, mastery also wins out. However, say for example you continue deeper into the pull, right? Mobs are gonna continue meleeing you. You do have more stacks of Iron Fur, obviously. I would say in those scenarios, the melee hits would probably range anywhere from like 100 to 150k. So we'll take kind of the upper bound of that, since that's where you would die. So, 150k, I think that's pretty reasonable for the brutes and freehold, things like that. Or say for example, Nell Slayer, the dot from the Hulk, those will definitely tick anywhere from 150k to 200k per tick. So assuming that is the case, gonna do the same exact damage reduction. 5 targets, 37k, going up to 8 targets, 60k. I think in this scenario, I would actually give Verse the win, mainly because, you know, you're gonna be constantly taking damage from these melee hits every second. In that situation, you can't necessarily press Frenzied Regen every, 3 to 4 seconds. That wouldn't be ideal. You'd probably have to kite somewhere when you don't have Frenzied Regens. What the Master will allow you to do is receive increased healing from your healer, which is great, but that would also in turn means, your healer is having to do a lot more healing. Whether you trust your healer to do so or not is up to you. Maybe you're playing with the Disc Priest. Disc Priests aren't best at single target healing. So it's a little hard to calculate. I will leave that to you guys to decide. But for me, I think Verse would probably be the best. Say, for example, you press Frenzied Regen every 6 to 10 seconds around there. And that, even then, that's quite a bit. I think every 10 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds is more reasonable. 8 to 10 seconds, I multiply the sizable hits of 37.12. Just say you take a hit every second, right, from these mobs. Whoops, and multiply it every 8 seconds. So, you're mitigating about 300k damage in those 8 seconds as compared to the mastery, which would be about 110k. Not necessarily the best comparison, but assuming you press Frenzied Regen every 8 to 10 seconds about, I think that's pretty reasonable. You definitely would get a lot more value out of Verse. 300k damage mitigation as compared to the 110k mastery HP that you have. Again, this is not taking into account the added healing you would get from your healer, as well as a bit more Frenzied Regen from the increased HP pool. Alright, for the most part, that pretty much sums up all the defensive scenarios. I would like to go over the offensive cases as well. However, I just don't really have the calculations for it or the numbers, formulas, etc. again. What I do know so far, though, is about 30% of your damage is not buffed by Mastery. That 30% includes Thorns of Iron, which is buffed by Agi, not Mastery, as well as your embellishments and trinkets. That plus the Onyx Amulet. So those things are quite a sizable chunk of your damage. For the most part, I would say Versatility probably still wins out, just based off of me having tested some Mastery gear and Verse gear throughout the season. But again, I just do not have the calculations, things like that currently. And that would take quite a bit more time. Maybe I could do that in a future video. In 1.5 though, however, I will try to, at the very least, probably do 3 dungeons of the same key level, same dungeon, with Mastery gear and with Verse gear, and try to compare the damage. The main reason for that is because Raise is going to be a very big portion of your damage in 1.5, and because you'll probably be running that every dungeon from now on, Mastery might actually be better offensively, especially since you won't be running Onyx Amulet anymore as well. So that might be a huge buff, I guess, indirect buff to mastery. Yeah, we'll have to go from there, and we'll see. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.